Hey, what's up guys? Another knife review. Yes, people have been patiently awaiting this particular review, all the Balisong guys out there. I have here a Bradley Cutlery Mayhem. Okay, here's your model number, in case you're interested. Little slide out box. Look at this, you get a nice little drawstring bag. Kind of reminds me of Benchmade a little bit. What'd you say? Well, it should, because Benchmade makes these for Bradley Cutlery. Okay, so in all intents and purposes, it's a Benchmade Balisong. It just so happens they have a different name on it. You got paperwork here, a little owner's manual. Keep your knives sharp, keep them oiled, blah, blah, blah. Little registration card. Put this off to the side. Yeah, drawstring bag, just like Benchmade does. Only it's a different material. It's kind of like a rain jacket or like cheap basketball pants, like those pull-away pants. All right, enough about the bag. No one cares about the bag. Let's talk about the knife. This is a beautiful, beautiful, amazing, high-end production Balisong. Let's get some close-up shots here. Very nicely done, very nicely finished. I'll give you some specs in a second here. It's a beautiful, beautiful Balisong. You see the spring latch. We'll talk a little bit about that. But there's two ways I can attack this video. I can focus on the knife itself, just basically as a folder. It's a different type of folding design. Or I can speak to all my Balisong buddies, my BBs, my Balisong buddies, and Balisong babes out there. Or Balisong beauties, if you want to be PC. Yeah, how's it gonna flip? All the flippers, all the people who love to manipulate these wonderful knives, they want to know how it's gonna flip and how it's gonna perform as a hobby knife, Now, it's a folding knife. It just happens to be a Balisong. So there's two different types of people who might be interested in this. Someone who actually wants to buy this and carry it and use it and cut things and have it as a utility knife and, possibly flip it a little bit. Then there's a completely different person, and that person's never going to carry it, probably can't legally carry it where they live anyway. They want to buy the knife and they want to flip it around. They want to learn how to do different moves. They want to get really good with it. So they want a totally different perspective than the guy who wants it as a user knife, or the girl, whatever. So first of all, I'm going to attack this for anyone who doesn't have the time to watch the whole review. If you're interested in the Mayhem for a flipper, I would probably say steer clear, okay? It's a beautiful knife. It's extremely, extremely smooth. It's very well built, very well finished. But I think there's better knives out there strictly for the hobby of flipping. There's two particular things I do not like about this knife. I've never cared for any kind of Balisong with a curved handle design, okay? Although very slight, it's a very slight curve. When you're flipping, it's magnified, okay? Let's look at just one handle here. This is a very slight curve. It's not this big extreme rainbow, okay? But that slight curvature, as you're rotating it in your hands, okay, you feel this. Just that little bit of, you know what? Let me use something I don't have anything here. Oh, you know what, the box. Use the box as a reference, okay? Look at the box in the background, the top of the box here. Imagine this line is our reference. Okay, you can see the wood behind the knife. That's how much curvature we have. Okay, let me try to get this part lined up. There we go. So now that you have a reference, you can see how much curvature is actually in the knife itself, right? Try to keep that steady for you. It's enough curve to when you're rotating your hand, it magnifies that curve in the feel. When you're flipping a Balisong, it's all about the feel. And believe me, you're completely aware of where your knife is, how it feels, and everything else. When you're doing different moves of the Balisong and you're rotating around or spinning it, or doing ricochets and stuff like that, this slight curvature makes a huge difference, and I think it really hinders you being successful in different types of manipulations. All right, it's not good. I'm not a fan of it. If you have never flipped a Balisong before and this is something like your first one, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference for you. So if you're looking to get a first Balisong and this is going to be, your very, very first one, you have no experience touching them, flipping them, anything like that, then I don't think it's an issue. I know guys who got like the Spyderco Spiderfly for their first Balisong. It's a very extreme design. It's totally different. But because it was their first one, they got really good with it because they had no reference. But if you're used to flipping a straight-handled Balisong, something like this is going to freak you out. It's going to feel completely different. You're not going to like it. Okay, so if you have experience with flipping, even a little bit, I think this is going to be more challenging to flip. The other major issue I had specifically with this one is with ricochets, okay? Ricochets being basically some point during the manipulation, the spine of the blade, you know, hits a finger. It touches part of your body, basically, and you're ricocheting off and then going back, changing motion. Because there's jimping here, although, you know, it's not completely sharp or anything like that, and you even have a rounded spine, it catches you just right where when you do a ricochet with this, it just pinches your finger, and it's really, really uncomfortable. And I would say after maybe 3 or 4 times in a row, it gets sore enough where you want to stop flipping. It's not comfortable. All right, so although extremely purposeful as a folding knife and a utility knife, you can really choke up a little bit and get a good grip on that. It's fantastic, right? You add a little bit of you know, pressure with your thumb. Perfect for use. Perfect for using the knife. If you're not using the knife and you're flipping it, every time you ricochet off your finger, it's just like ow, ow, ow. Do a couple different moves, ow. And not cool. So between the difficulty of transitioning from a straight handle bally to a curved bally, you're already behind the 8 ball, no pun intended, with that. But in addition to that, you're going to find yourself being very annoyed by the jimping on the spine there. Okay, so whenever they design this knife, they designed it pretty much for utility purposes. Any kind of curved handle balisong is more comfortable in the hand. Like someone who doesn't normally flip, let's say even if you're a knife designer and you maybe design fixed blades or folders or whatever, like, you know, you're thinking about ergonomics constantly. And when you look at a balisong, the design of a balisong, a lot of times when they change it from a straight handle to a curved handle, it's because they want to increase the ergonomics, and that's exactly what it does. They have a nice little finger troll here, and the curvature matches the natural curvature of your palm. All right, so yes, it's extremely comfortable to hold. That makes sense to most knife designers, but those knife designers are not balisong guys. They're not someone who's sitting home for hours on end flipping these things. So they don't take in consideration that it's not going to be the most effective at flipping. However, that may not be their purpose. They may completely understand that and just want to make this purposely a useful knife as opposed to someone who's flipping for a hobby. But yeah, I would definitely say these are 2 major hits, and I would prefer many other models of balisongs to flip purely for flipping as opposed to using. Now, vice versa, even the 42, I think this is a much better EDC balisong than the 42 or the 51. You know, or a multitude of different balisong models, because this has the added benefit of having better ergonomics, has a little bit better grip with the jimping there, and so forth. All right, so it's basically, you know, depending on what you're looking for this knife to do for you, it could be good or it could be bad. Overall, I have to say it's still a fantastic knife, just not the best flipper out there. So that's the point I wanted to make for all the guys and girls that do actually flip, and then the biggest purpose of this review for them is to find out if it's something they want to get to flip. If you're just going to be flipping with this, there's other ones you can get. All right. But now, if you want to buy this because you either want to collect it or you want to actually use it, good news for you, it's a fantastic knife. It really is beautiful, extremely well done. Let's go over all the specs. In this particular one, I had some different measurements available to me. So I'm going to do the conversion for all my overseas people, which is awesome for you. I know you get extra excited when you hear that. But anyway, overall, the open length here, 8.53 inches or 21.67 centimeters. Our blade, we're sporting a modified spear point. I want to talk more of the blade in a second. S30V stainless on this, okay? 3.83 inches. That's overall, not just the cutting edge. Okay, it's from tip of the handles to the very tip of the blade, and that translates to 9.73 centimeters. All right, closed, we're looking at 5 inches, okay, from the tip of that funky tang, which is actually really good for striking or even glass breaking, to the back of the handles here, exactly 5 inches or 12.7 centimeters. The weight on this is 4.2 ounces or 119.07 grams. Now 4.2 ounces, okay, this is only 0.1 ounces more than a 42. I've always claimed that the Benchmade Model 42 has been the perfect weight balisong, coming in at 4.1 ounces. I agree with this one. Even flipping it, I find that it's not too heavy, it's not too light, it's absolutely perfect. So as far as weight's concerned, I think it's spot on, not only just for flipping, but also just to carry. It's got that heavy duty feel, but it's not heavy. All right, it doesn't seem light and flimsy, but it's not a big pocket weight, you know. It's not a desk weight that's in your pocket. So I really like, you know, the fit and finish on this is just superb. It's really, really well done. We'll talk about design a little bit more, but I want to show you some close-ups here. Okay, this is a solid titanium scales here. It is a flow-through design. So basically you have 4 slabs of titanium, and then you have these standoffs. The standoffs are very, very attractive. Bradley's, the whole silver blue thing, all the Bradley cutlery stuff, even you've seen the aliases, or excuse me, the aliases, those models are also kind of the gray or blue theme. These standoffs are anodized aluminum, very vibrant blue. By the way, this is the gray version. There's also a Mayhem that comes with the anodized blue handles, which is a little bit darker than what these standoffs are. But absolutely beautiful. You can see it's 2 standoffs on each side. Then there's a dedicated separate pin here for the spring latch. We'll talk more about that in a second. But titanium, you can see obviously milled here. It lightens it up just a little bit. It adds a little bit of grip. When you're flipping, you can tell a little bit more than when you're just handling it here. But you do have a finger choil cut out here, a little bit of a you know, material taken out right there. Your finger kind of wraps around comfortably. It just feels really good. It is very ergonomic in that sense. Titanium is B-blasted. It's the standard 6Al4V titanium. I mean, there are different grades of titanium, but 6Al4V is what's most commonly used in the knife industry. So if you hear about titanium in a knife, more than likely it's that grade of titanium. Of course, I've always been a huge fan of 2 things, 2 very minor things, but I absolutely love when I see them. First of all, I love when the pivots are presentation side pivots. All I mean by that is that the flats are on the front, so it looks nice and clean, as opposed to having screw heads like this. When you flip it over, you see that's where our accessibility is to take our screws out. And by the way, they are Torx bits, very common, but it's just a nice, clean, classy look. Also, I'm a huge fan of rounded spines, as you guys know. Very well done, very nice finish on it, extremely smooth. You can see, obviously, as I talked before, there is a little bit of jimping here. Let's get a real close shot of that and let this focus a little bit. There we go, as Gus snores away. Beautiful, beautiful finish on this. Really just attention to detail. This knife is made in America, USA made, which is very nice. Of course, that will reflect on price a little bit, which we'll talk about in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the blade. We have a modified spear point here, a heavy swedge, although the swedge is not really sharpened, as you can see. It does taper a little bit, but nice and round. It's very comfortable. But having the swedge on there will aid in penetration, okay? Extremely sharp edge on this. S30V takes and holds a very nice edge, but it comes razor sharp from Bradley. This one I did use a little bit. It has a stonewash finish on it, but it's a very light stonewash. It's almost like a mix between a satin finish and a stonewash. You could barely tell. You know, I don't know. I kind of prefer some of the heavier stonewash finishes, but it's not a bad looking blade. It's really nice, real crisp, even grinds. What I like about this is that the edge comes all the way down to the very edge, and it's razor sharp, even right there. Before we get into more about the design, let's talk about the pocket clip a little bit. It does come with a pocket clip. If you're not into that, if you're not going to carry it, simply take it off. Very simple solution right there. I do suggest if you take your pocket clip off, to put your pocket clip hardware back on the knife and Loctite it. Otherwise, you know, coming from experience, you will lose your hardware. You don't want to lose it. It's easier to find your pocket clip as opposed to the little screws. Unless, I don't know, keep it in a Ziploc bag or something. But pocket clip tension is perfect. You know, it works. It works beautifully as a, you know, a pocket knife if you wanted to carry, if you could legally carry it. It does work very well. Spring latch on this one. A lot of people are big fans of spring latches, and I find that people are disappointed if a Balisong does not have a spring latch. You know, I've been flipping Balisongs for years now, and the spring latch, although new and cool and everything, I kind of prefer a knife without a spring latch. I like the noise that a regular standard T-latch makes. You know, that clicking is music to my ears. But if you happen to like a spring latch because it stays out of the way, here's basically how it works. And this is the best example to show because you do have this, you know, flow-through design. But basically you have your pin here, and you just have a spring that's attached to it, and a spring that's attached to the base of your latch. And as your latch goes one way, it pulls the spring apart, which obviously it wants to spring back. That's how a spring works, right? So it wants to always go to this simple position. So either way you turn your latch, whether it's to lock it open or lock it closed, there's spring tension on there. All right, so when the knife is closed, you're putting spring tension and it's locking, right? Now when you squeeze the handles together, what you're doing is you're allowing that spring tension to pull that latch back. Okay? So that's basically how that works. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Zen pins on this. If you're not familiar, this particular knife has Zen pins, as opposed to the tang pin or the pin that goes through the tang of the blade, and hence the name tang pin. You'll notice it lacks that because it has Zen pins. Zen pins are right here. These two pins that go through match up with the cutouts on the tang, both on the open and closed position. And the purpose of these are to keep the distance between the handles. The reason you want a gap between these handles is so that your latch locks up perfectly every time. You can see when this just naturally shuts like this, you can hear it hitting. It's not going to go any further. The latch won't lock, right? You have to just squeeze this just a tiny bit to allow that to go through. This creates enough tension so that it will not shake loose. This is what you want. You want a tight latch. On your cheap Balisongs, your tang pin is usually a very soft metal, and with use, it squeezes together. And what happens is, because those are squeezing together, your handles end up going together a little bit closer, and your latch never locks quite right. Okay, it's loose, it flops open, it's not good. So both in the open position as well as in the closed position, these Zen pins don't allow the handles to close all the way. You want this gap, you need it to have a nice tight latch lockup. All right, now how this actually works, as you can see, to keep the blade open, there's 4 little cups. You can see a little cup right there, a little cup right there, and you can see one right there and right there. That's where these pins line up. Okay, if you're coming close, and let this focus for a second. Watch this pin right here line up with the tang of the blade. Right there, it stops it. Okay, same with this side and that little cup. It stops it. Same thing when they're open. Okay, notice this pin right here and that little cup right there. Okay, they stop. Now this is I think it's a superior design, because when you have tang pins, although on cheap Balisongs, the metal itself is poorly heat treated. Usually it's not even heat treated when you're talking about your cheap $10, $15 Balisongs, and they end up squeezing together, and you lose that tension in your latch, so it ends up flopping open and it doesn't securely lock anymore. But I do like the Zen pin design. I think it is more efficient than having tang pins. So I really like that. It's a nice addition. It's kind of newer technology, if you will, although it's not technology. It's newer innovation. I like the design. It also makes for a cleaner look on the blade, not having the pin sticking out of the blade, as opposed to having them in the frame of the knife itself. But really nice. Also, if you notice, by design, you have a nice little point here. If you're using this for defense, even closed, it would be very effective. If you were to slam into something with this, all the energy from this knife and the movement of your arm and everything, it all concentrates into that little tip. Okay, and when you hit bone with that, even with a moderate strike, you transfer a lot of energy into that point. Okay, it's no different than like a Kupiton or any kind of other impact weapon that comes to a point. All the energy you're transferring into a tiny little area, so it's a lot of impact. Very easily would, crack or fracture bone. So in addition to that, it can be used for an improvised glass punch if you needed to. So if you happen to carry this in your pocket, if you are easing or keeping it in a vehicle or something like that, if you can legally do so, it's a great little thing to just grab real quick to, smash a window out if you needed to. So it's just a nice little addition. Some Balisongs happen to have it on purpose, some have it on accident. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but it's a funky little tip there, and it can be very effective in both those roles. Overall, it's really, really a nice knife. It's fantastic, extremely comfortable. If I can legally carry a Balisong in Pennsylvania, I would carry this particular one. And of all the Balisongs I've had, this definitely is my favorite for a user Balisong. I think it's definitely a good additive to any Balisong collection. I think if you're not necessarily into flipping, it's still a nice one to have in your collection, or if you want to use it around the house, or if you can legally carry it, then it's fantastic. But put it this way, if I can have it in PA, and it's so stupid because I can literally walk down the street with 2 AK-47s fully loaded, but I can't carry this in my pocket by law. Makes no sense. But one day when the rules change, and they will in my lifetime, I firmly believe that, knife laws will change for the better. I hope. I'm fighting for. A little shout out for knife rights once again. Yeah, make a donation, become a member. It helps. But yeah, when the laws do pass, this is the Balisong I want in my pocket to actually use. Now, don't get me wrong. For the intro here, talking about the flipping and how this pinches you a little bit, and the curved handles are harder to flip. Those are issues to me personally. But I don't want to paint the wrong picture for you. I can still flip this. I can still do the majority of the moves I normally do. I can have a lot of fun doing it. And this is extremely smooth. Has the bronze phosphorus washers in there. Very tight tolerances. Get this to focus a little bit better for you. And it is a fantastic flipper by design. I mean, that seems contradictory. It's very, very smooth when it flips. It's very comfortable when it flips. It's very quiet. It's just you have to get used to the curved handles, and you have to get used to the fact that if you do ricochets, this might be an issue for you. But for rollovers and things of that nature, it's beautiful. It's a fantastic Balisong. It's just not my preference. That's it, guys. That's the Bradley Mayhem. It is a beautiful production Balisong. I would say that the fit and finish and the overall quality is still, in my opinion, slightly better than the Benchmade Model 42. It just does not flip the same for me, because of the curved handles and my issue I have with the jimping on there. But it is definitely worth having if it's something you're slightly interested in. I would say bite the bullet on it. Average price you could find these for is about 220 bucks. Depending on where you get it from, figure another 10 or 15 bucks to get the blue anodized version, just because it's another step that the company has to go through to get that finish on there. But it really is worth having. It's worth checking out. And as a Balisong flipper myself, I always like to branch out, and even if there's a particular design I don't like, I like to at least handle as many Balisongs as I possibly can. You may look at one on the market, or people are talking about something, you're like, yeah, that one's not going to be a good flipper. But everyone's different. You got to get one in hand to actually see what it's going to be like for you. Some people really like the curved handle Balisongs, but majority of people who I talk to and have experience with, they do prefer a straight handled Balisong for the art of manipulating it, strictly because of the ease of it and the versatility you have. But it's pros and cons depending on what you could use it for. As a user knife, there's no other Balisong out there right now that's a better EDC Balisong, in my opinion. Flipping is a whole different subject. So that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I thank you very much for watching, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.